Good evening, everyone. I will call this meeting to order. In the spirit of truth and reconciliation, we acknowledge the town of Edson is located on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral lands of the Niqawak, Saulteaux, Siksika, Piikani, Kainai, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and the Atipemisiwak Métis Nations. We honor the knowledge of this land, the elders and youth which gather here, and our ancestors who have gathered here for centuries. Now, before I begin, with the motion for the adoption of the agenda, I just want to highlight that yesterday was a very special anniversary for CAO Beverage, who marked her 5-year anniversary with the town of Edson. Since her arrival, she has rebuilt the foundation of the town of Edson with a number of organizational changes, making our operation a lot more efficient and effective. And we appreciate the work, the dedication, and the passion that you have for the town of Edson. So thank you very much for 5 years of service with the town of Edson. On that note, I will take a motion for the adoption of the agenda. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Fogarty.
I move that the agenda for the June 2nd, 2026 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Can I get a motion, please, for the minutes of the May 19th regular meeting of council? Please go ahead, Councillor Holden.
I motion that the minutes of the May 19th, 2026 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns with the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. We have no public hearings this evening, but we do have a delegation. The Yellowhead Regional Library, we'd like to welcome up Tara Elwood, the board chair, and Carla Palachuk, the director of the Yellowhead Regional Library. Welcome.
So, hello everyone. I'm Tara Elwood. I'm the mayor of the Village of Alberta Beach, the chair of Yellowhead Regional Library, and director of Villages West for Alberta Municipalities. Thank you for providing us with the opportunity to present to you today about Yellowhead Regional Library. We are excited to tell you about our library system and what we have been doing lately.
I would also like to acknowledge the presence of the library manager, as well as members of the library board, and also thank Deputy Mayor Fogarty for his contribution on the Yellowhead board, and also recognize the contribution from, where did he go? There he is, from Councillor Taylor, who served on the Yellowhead Library Board for a few years. Yellowhead, now I have to go to the next slide. There we go. So everything you see in this presentation on this circle are things that our local libraries now have to deal with. Increased programming, health and wellness issues, literacy issues, social connections, digital divide issues, local collections, and skill and job development. Yellowhead exists in that center to be able to provide the services to our member libraries so they can act as the community hub and provide these types of services in your communities. We provide the library here with the infrastructure so that your library staff can focus on community and provide similar services to what you would see in larger communities like Edmonton and Calgary or Toronto, while maintaining your community's own unique look and feel.
So as you see there, libraries are essential to economic development. Libraries provide information and resources to people looking to start a business. Career and job training. Libraries help people discover new careers and find post-secondary programs, download application forms. We foster community connections. Libraries help people meet their neighbors. And we celebrate literacy. Programs for children and youth support their reading and literacy skills.
Our 2025 annual report was provided as part of our submission. Just a few things I would like to highlight. If anybody tells you that print is dead, we moved over 2.3 million items out of our building in Spruce Grove to our local libraries. That is a phenomenal amount. It has been increasing every year since COVID, but we have exceeded our pre-COVID numbers now with the print materials, DVDs, games, and other resources that communities are asking for. We protect IT infrastructure through all of the cybersecurity measures that we maintain. We look after the staff computers here in the library, but we've also transitioned over to protecting the public machines as well through adoption of additional cybersecurity measures. We do a lot of consulting work, we do a lot of training work, and your library here has taken advantage of all of it. And like everybody else, we work in a VUCA environment. We deal with volatility through rising prices, uncertainty through our recent municipal elections where the Yellowhead Board turned over by 60%, but also the uncertainty linked to changes in provincial legislation through Bill 28. We are dealing with changes in our populations, the growth in the number of communities, changes to board, and the emergence of artificial intelligence, and who is going to support the communities in learning about that and using them effectively and ethically. That should be the library. And we're also dealing with ambiguity with provincial legislation changes that we don't know how to implement at this point, but we are watching and providing input into those processes. Our strategic plan for the next 5 years is we decided to be bold and do it as a circle and not as a rectangle. It allows us to look at how do we build relationships. We put the relationships in front of everything. We look at, is it a technology thing? How are we going to sustain it? And how does this new service look at risk mitigation? Using this survey, this circle is what got us through to addressing cybersecurity issues on public computers and supporting libraries in managing risk when they have to deal with volatile and difficult customers, and how do they track that and report on it.
So now we're going to talk about the money, what you pay and versus what you get. I'll do that. Okay, so we do a return on investment statement every year. This was also included in your package. Your membership levy is just currently under $40,000 a year. Out of that, we provide the library just over $6,000 for material costs, but you're avoiding costs in over $800,000 because we pay for the technology, the wireless access points, the software, the core business software required to circulate materials, training, and other software. So the total return on investment currently is $20.89. So this slide provides context for the funding discussion. For many years, the YRL levy remained stable at $4.30 per capita. Modest increases since 2020 have brought the 2026 rate to $4.85. Municipal contributions have not kept pace with the rising costs and service demands. As a result, about $300,000 each year in provincial funding, intended for innovation and improvement, is being redirected to cover basic municipal service costs. Reserves that buffered the gap have been responsibly drawn down to the level the auditor is comfortable with. The proposed adjustment from $4.85 to $5.60 per capita corrects the gap by aligning municipal funding with the true cost of services already being provided. The request is a per capita adjustment from $4.85 to $5.60, so it's a 75-cent per capita increase. This proposal is not about adding new programs or expanding services. It is about accountability and paying the true cost of services municipalities already receive. It aligns municipal contributions with the actual cost of services being provided and supports YRL's ability to meet its obligations under the Master Membership Agreement. For rural municipalities, the key point is stability. Small libraries rely on shared regional services, technology, collections, and expertise that would be far more expensive or not feasible to provide independently. When funding falls short, provincial dollars meant to support innovation and equity improvements are used to cover operational gaps. This proposal is about stability, not growth, ensuring communities continue to receive contracted services without disruption. The practical takeaway is that the cost to residents is minimal, roughly the cost of 2 coffees per year for an average household, but the benefit is significant. Supporting this adjustment restores accountability by returning provincial funding to its intended purpose and stabilizes YRL so the system can maintain investments in collections, digital resources, and shared infrastructure. This isn't about growth or ambition. It's about sustainability, accountability, and paying the true cost of services we already rely on.
Right now, your residents have access to over 3 billion physical items through our sharing agreements with other libraries. That does not include the over 600,000 ebooks, 111,000 audiobooks, or 300,000 music albums, and language learning software, educational software. Yellowhead also then provides and supports all the broadband internet and wireless internet accesses that your residents can access for free.
At this point, we'll entertain any questions if you guys have any.
Thank you very much for your presentation this evening. Council will open the floor to questions. Deputy Mayor Fogarty.
Not so much a question, but more a couple of comments. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for the detailed numbers that you shared with us in other parts of your presentation as well. I think the ask is not that big considering the numbers speak for themselves in what our library receives and what our citizens receive for what Yellowhead Regional Library does. So very, very supportive of this increase in funding. It doesn't work out to be a very large number of an increase, and we're already getting excellent service for what we're paying for. So just wanted to speak in favor of that. I have no questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Taylor.
Through the mayor to Ms. Elwood and Ms. Polachek.
Yep.
Thank you, ladies, for your presentation and for your work on YRL. Deputy Mayor Fogarty kind of stole my thunder with that, but I've seen firsthand the work that YRL has done. Not only did you mention that in the presentation, but you were instrumental as well in helping the library hire an interim manager during the renovation process, and then hire our current manager, who's amazing. And you were instrumental in that process. So I've seen firsthand the value that YRL brings. On top of all the things you mentioned and essentially the cost avoidance that we're looking at. Obviously, the ask at a later council meeting, we'll be making that decision on the ask. My only question is just in terms of future budgets. Now that sort of we've gone through the process of like little increases and we see part of it, sort of a bigger increase. Obviously, I think it's a $6,000 increase for us. Percentage-wise, I think it was 18%? Was I remember? So when you just see the percentage, it's obviously jarring when we see that, right? So looking to the future, is YRL now going to be looking at more sort of standardized increases to avoid a sort of a larger jump? Again, maybe not the biggest hit for this municipality, but if it happens continuously, it can be, and perhaps to smaller municipalities, it could be quite an increase. So just wondering about future budgets.
Mayor Zahara, to Councillor Taylor, thank you. It has been my recommendation to the Yellowhead Board that they do budget for predictable, ongoing, stable funding. The board approves the budget. We make recommendations, but it's the full board, which is made up of very large municipalities and very small summer villages who have to decide and vote on it. So my recommendation is we need stable, predictable funding. That makes it easier for us to budget and certainly makes it easier for council to look at your budget and make those decisions. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Fogarty.
Thank you. Through the mayor, I also just wanted to mention that while I support that, I think that's a better idea than waiting large numbers of years to then feel like you're behind and need to get caught up. But I also know that with the coming of Bill 28 and not really understanding what that means totally, that could have a huge impact on the budget as well, depending on what it all means in the end. Thank you.
Council, do you have any further questions, comments, or concerns? I think your presentation was very in-depth, and all your background documents here certainly makes the case for a small increase overall, dollar-wise. So we certainly will consider that as a part of our 2027 budget process. So thanks for the heads up way ahead of time, so we can prepare. I don't know how we're going to find $6,000, but we'll look under maybe Councillor Taylor's pillow and we'll find it. So. Thank you very much for your presentation. You're welcome to stay if you like, but I certainly understand if you need to get back home as well. So thank you.
So much.
All right, we have no reading of bylaws this evening. We're going to move on to business items under item G. We have the FCSS Advisory Board grant recommendations presented by Sarah McDonald, our Community Development Supervisor, and Diana Chomiak, our Chairperson of our FCSS Advisory Board. Welcome, Ms. Chomiak.
Thank you. I'm back once again. Is it on? Yes. Perfect. No. There we go. So I'm here to give advice on the remaining 2026 grant funding. So the FCSS Advisory Board has a remaining $5,000 available for allocation in the 2026 budget. Each application was assessed for approval, denial, or approval at a reduced amount. Funding is being recommended to 2 of 3 applicants. Where funding was recommended at a reduced level, it reflects the board's assessment that the initiative could proceed with a lower contribution, and with the limited funding of $5,000, difficult decisions had to be made. So our recommendations, we had 3 applications totaling a ask of $12,500. The first was for Woven Trails Wisdom of the Horse Preventative Wellness Pilot Program. $2,500 was requested, and that is what we are recommending. The Edson Friendship Center for their National Indigenous Peoples Day requested $5,000, and we're recommending $2,500 for that project. The Edson Food Bank Society provides supports that keep people engaged and active in the community, requested $5,000, and we're not recommending anything for this time. And that's all I have this time, so thank you for your attention. Are there any questions?
Council, do you have any questions for our presenter this evening? I'll throw a question at you, Ms. Chomiak. So the Wisdom of the Horse, I know, reading the background information here, I know that something of this nature certainly would be welcome for many people. Is this a local group, or is this a group from outside of the community?
So they're actually from Yellowhead County, but they're running the program at the agricultural grounds in the town of Edson.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. If there's no further questions or comments, I will take a motion from the floor, please. Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
I move the council approve the Family and Community Support Services FCSS grants for a total of $5,000 as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you, and thank you for the board for their work on this. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, next up, we have the Vision Park Project Dugout Design Options presented by our Recreation Manager, Vicki Bird. Welcome this evening, Vicki.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to present the Vision Park Project Dugout Design Options and to request direction on how administration should proceed. So a bit of background on the project. We're in the final phase of the Vision Park construction. It includes installation of dugouts on diamonds 1 through 4, 9, and 11. The original design that was tendered exceeded our approved budget. So we worked with our contractor to come up with a revised design, and this design was implemented to align with the budget. Our user groups reviewed the new revised design and expressed concerns with enclosure, weather protection, and the overall anticipated user experience. Construction is actively underway, but with the dugout construction on hold pending council's direction tonight. The project budget is fully allocated and materials have already been procured for the current design, and any change in direction may result in additional costs or some level of redundant or sunk costs into the project. So we met with the user groups, and there was consistent feedback through both of our user groups. There was a strong preference for wood-framed dugouts and concrete floors. There was a desire for improved weather and wind protection. And there was a preference for consistent design across all diamonds, including the existing dugouts that are in the park right now. A phased or interim approach was not supported by the user groups, and their concern with the current design, it was that it did not meet their expectations for functionality, aesthetics, or overall facility quality. That being said, administration explored 3 options. Option 1 is to stay with the current revised design, which is the chain link dugout with gravel floors. The cost impact for this option is that there is 0 cost impact to the project. However, the user preference for this option is low, but the completion level of the project is that the project would be complete with no future anticipated costs to complete the project. Option 2 is a full construction of the wood dugouts with concrete pads. This results in an additional $17,700. This includes approximately $9,700 in previously incurred costs that cannot be utilized. However, the user preference for this option is high, and the completion level of the project is that the project would be complete with no future costs anticipated for this project. Option 3 is to install the concrete pads now with potential for future dugout construction. The cost impact for this option is a savings of $29,562. However, the user preference for this option is low, and the completion level for this option is only partial, which a future build will be required to add in those dugouts on those concrete pads. It is something to note for option 3 that we expect a higher cost to go with this option because it would require remobilization of contractors to build those dugouts on top of the concrete pads. Another option was reviewed. It was to utilize existing concrete pads on diamonds 9 and 11, but it was determined that this option was not feasible due to current construction sequencing and fencing alignment on those dugouts. So all of these options support the project. However, they vary in design approach, level of completion, and overall user experience. So this evening, administration recommends proceeding with a full build wood dugout option, which was option 2, including a budget adjustment of approximately $10,000 funded from the Recreation Capital Reserve. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you,
I'm
Ms.
happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Bird, for your presentation, your work on this. Council will open the floor to questions or comments. Go ahead, Councillor Holden.
Through the mayor to Ms. Bird, just 2 quick questions. If we, no matter where we go here, is this the final piece of putting Vision Park back together? Is there going to be extended construction in 27, 28, 29? Or are we actually getting to the stage where this will complete the facility build?
Through Mayor Zahara to Councillor Holden, thank you for the question. This is the final phase of this project. There will be ongoing maintenance throughout the years, but this is the final phase for this project in particular.
Okay, that actually did my second question as well, so thank you very much.
Councillor Holden, Councillor Schramm.
Yeah, through the chair to administration. First of all, I want to thank administration for reaching out to the user groups, coming up with a solution that kind of accommodates what their needs are. They're the main users, and I'm glad we took that into consideration. I'm in favor of option 2. It makes a lot of sense out there. It's consistent. It's what the users want. Just do have a question relating to the status of Diamond 11. I noticed that the fencing and everything has been removed. As to when that's going to potentially be up and running, is there some construction updates you can give us on that aspect as well?
Through Mayor Zahara to Councillor Schramm, that is part of the project. It is it's on hold right now until we make a dugout decision. Otherwise, we anticipate that will be back up. I don't want to speak to it in case I'm incorrect. So if I could get back to you on that, that would be great.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Through the mayor to administration, I will have a question, and I will have some comments once our motions are made a little bit later. So I remember when I was elected the first time we were talking about this. So we're going back about 4.5 years ago, and I asked the question, are we getting a better facility? And the answer at the time was yes. So it is my understanding that we're still getting a better facility. And I asked that question because I'm not a user out there. So I lean on our user groups to know if we're getting a better and more enhanced facility. And that's the first question. Our second question, as well as, are the user groups happy with this final design? Because we spent a lot of money out there, and I'd be disappointed to hear that they're not happy. So I asked those two questions. Are we getting a better facility? And that was a question I had asked 4.5 years ago, and the answer was yes, and here we are. And now I ask, are the user groups finally happy with this final design? So, question to administration.
Through Mayor Zahara to Councillor Taylor. To respond to your first question, it is my understanding that we are getting a better facility from what it was in the past. When it comes to are the user groups happy, we took a balanced approach because we have two strong user groups who use the facility, but they both have different wants and needs. So we did our best to balance what mixed slow pitch would like, and we did our best to balance what minor ball would like and how to advance both programs. We have been engaged with them throughout this process. There has been a few hiccups, and we've worked through it with them. But we are committed to working with the user groups and making sure we appease those wants and needs as best we can within the funding that we have.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns from Ms. Bird before we take a motion from the floor? Seeing none, I will take a motion from the floor. Thank you, Ms. Bird, for your presentation. Go ahead, Councillor Schramm.
I move that council direct administration to proceed with option 2, full build wood dugouts at Vision Park, diamonds 1 through 4, and 9 and 11.
Thank you, Councillor Schramm. We'll open the floor to debate. Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the mayor to council and everyone, really. This project has taken a very long time. There's no question about it. I was elected in 2021, and the project had sort of already been design started at that point. And Mayor Zahara, I think you were a part of that initial design. And then due to budget constraints, the project had to be redesigned. Construction took a long time. Ms. Bird, you indicated some hiccups along the way. I know at times there were user groups that weren't happy with how things are going. So I want to say now that to the user groups, we hear you, and we know this process has taken a long time. And we can be mad at whoever we want, whether it's administration or staff, or whether it's contractors, or whether it's design or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's the 7 people sitting at this table that end up are the final decision makers. It's our names on the ballot, and the user groups have to, if they're going to be angry at anybody, it's going to be us. So we have to take responsibility. I know I take responsibility for how long this project has taken. Hearing Councillor Holden's question about this is the end is a relief. And as I asked that question as Bird earlier, are the user groups happy? And if there's a balanced approach and we've gotten to the end and they are happy, then I am happy. I am not a user out there, so I will always depend upon the user groups to tell me their concerns. We have heard concerns regarding maintenance, something we're not talking about tonight, but that may be something that has to be brought back to this table about the maintenance. If we're going to have these first-class diamonds out there, and I do believe the facility is first-rate, that's what I've heard. We used to have world-class ball tournaments out there. Councillor Positioney was heavily involved in that. And I would like to see that kind of thing brought back, that back to our community. So I depend on the user groups to tell me about issues. And with that maintenance, we want to ensure that these facilities remain first-rate. So those are my comments. I'm supportive of option 2 and proceeding with the motion that's on the floor. To the user groups, thank you for your patience, and hopefully at the end of this construction season, we have a fully equipped ball facility that everyone can enjoy.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. GM Kitlitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to speak a little bit to the questions about if the project's done, and it is done. The project for the rehabilitation after the pipeline work that went through should be done at the end of this year. But I want to make sure it's clear that on our capital plan, we still have projects we want to do out there. For example, the front gates are in pretty bad repair, and those need to be replaced. So that's on the plan. We put on the capital plan, I think it's every second year, maybe it's every year, funding to replace the fencing on some of the older diamonds that have been out there for a while. So, and that speaks to part of the maintenance as well, is upkeep and keeping those things replaced. There's also lighting and maybe perimeter fencing so we can keep some of the ATVs out of the park now that we've invested all this money in there. So the project's done, but there's still things that we have planned for Vision Park to help continue to enhance that space. So I just wanted to provide that context. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions, concerns? I'll just echo what Councillor Taylor says. No doubt this has been frustrating. It's been frustrating for the user groups. It's been frustrating for administration. It's been frustrating for council. We've had more challenges on that project than I think any other project that we have taken on, and we can quarterback that all day long. But at the end of the day, it is starting to really take shape out there. It really looks nice. It's going to be nice to have a baseball diamond out there with much larger fields. And I think we're going to have a facility that, because we have reduced the amount of diamonds, that we will have a better opportunity to maintain them properly. I agree with GM Kitlitz. We have to absolutely have budget each year to be doing some work out there. We got to deal with the hangar. That's, it's an eyesore. So I think that's probably going to be the next big thing, but it's not going to impact necessarily the users out there. There are some elevation changes that we need to make as well, and those sorts of things. At the end of the day, these facilities are for our user groups. It's no different than minor hockey or figure skating. They need, certain ice conditions. Ball players need certain conditions out on the fields, and we need to really focus in on that. I think we have been dropping the ball a little bit, just with the amount of things that we have to do on a day-to-day basis. And our teams try their best with the resources that they have, but we do need to look at some improvements there. I do appreciate the honest feedback from the user groups, and alerting to us when there is something that they didn't like, so we didn't get too far down the road. Luckily, we were able to pause this project and re-look at that, and I thank Ms. Bird for engaging, and GM Kitlitz to try to make sure that at the end of the day, we do have a facility out there that's going to meet the needs of the user groups. Is it everything that they want it to be? No. Is it everything we want it to be? No. The cost of this project, the shale, the earthwork has been astronomical, but we are progressing, and so I was pleasantly surprised on the budget amount that's been requested here. I thought it was going to be a lot more than that. So with that, I will call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously, and I will take a second motion, please. Go ahead, Councillor Holden.
I motion that council approve an increase to the Vision Park project capital budget in the amount of $10,000 to be funded from the Recreation Capital Reserve.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions, comments, or concerns? I do have a question for Ms. Bird. Are we certain that the $10,000 is going to be covering what we need to get this project done? Are those costs locked in, or is this just an estimate?
Thank you for the question. It is an estimate at this time, but our contractor is confident, as they can be.
All right. Thank you for that answer. Council, any further questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We are going to move on to the Lions Club Campground Upgrade response, presented by our General Manager of Infrastructure and Planning, GM Kitlitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I have a short presentation for this evening to go over primarily the response to the delegation that the Lions Club brought forward to Council on May 12th, outlining their master plan for the Lions Club campground improvements and some funding requests for that. As early as, last night, I got it this morning. We got some updated information from the club that I will share verbally here that'll supplement what was in your package, but we'll go through that in these slides. There was some other background in the RFP. I won't go through that. I'm going to instead focus just sort of on May 12th moving forward. As council is aware, the presentation was again about the master plan for improvements to the campground, primarily to the west half on the west side of the creek next to the clubhouse, where they're looking to put in some full service sites that are there hopefully to meet the demands of their customers. They planned out these upgrades in phases, and I'll go into that a little bit more in the next slide. And hopefully with this phased approach, they can continue to raise funds to go through phase 1, 2, and 3 over a period of time. Their focus for right now is being phase 1 and phase 2, and the request on the 12th was either in kind or funding supported to the amount of $450,000 from council. So this slide represents one of the images that was in their presentation on the 12th. At that time, the ask was for, well, the project was estimated to be at $803,000. Now, there's a little bit of confusion for me, and I think I've got it sorted out. They talked about 3 phases of the project, but then they also listed off these sort of funding categories, I guess, or project categories that also were called phases. Phase 1, I don't have a pointer, okay. So phase 1 is the bank of 8 stalls on the, I guess, east half of the road. And phase 2 is actually where you can see the outline of the road allowance there to the top. Am I allowed to have that mouse? No? No? So that $800,000, by my understanding, is for phase 1 and 2. And that's for servicing, grading, and ultimately landscaping to get that phase completed. Phase 3 would be on the west half of their loop road there, and that's being held for a later time when the club managed to raise the funds to do that. Now, the phase 2 will be serviced, but they won't do the above ground until the road closure bylaw is considered and approved, and then they can do those above ground improvements, but they want to do the underground hopefully this summer and have this work, the underground work completed by September this year. While I was preparing this RFD for tonight, I reached out to the club just to get confirmation on some of the numbers. In that email response, they changed their sort of, what had happened is I think they reported on the 12th, I think the consultant reported that the tenders were out and they were getting responses back the following day or very close to after that meeting. The quotes they got back from the contract were very favorable. In fact, they were quite, they were much less than what the estimates were of $803,000, which is very positive for the club, obviously. So based on the May 28th email, they sort of said to me they adjusted their numbers to $100,000 right now to support the finishing off of phase 1, and then potentially another $70,000 in 2027 or a 27 budget to finish off the landscaping for phase 1. Again, phase 1 being the east half of this project area. Again, I'm preparing for tonight. We wanted to make sure that we weren't, compromising the project, 'cause it is a good project for the club and for the town. So we asked again just to confirm if in the event the council didn't support funding right now, would the project be on hold or half finished, or would it compromise future operations or the operations for next year or this year? And so we got some updated information. So the architects submitted even more refined numbers as early as last night. First off, I wanted to confirm that this was asked of council, I think, at the May 12th about the matching funding for the CFIP grant of $100,000. They have confirmed that they have that money. So I think on the 12th, they reported they had $320,000. Now they have shared in this latest email that they're $420,000 of funding, sorry. And that the project, based on the estimates that come in from the contractors, is now at about $555,000, so much less than the 803. Now, the caveat on that is that doesn't include the landscaping as well as some taxes, but it does include the construction of phase one as well as their consulting costs and some of those things. So they're pretty tight still. The plan would be to get all of the underground for phase one completed by September of this year. And they would even like to try to maybe open up some of those sites for some winter camping just to test out their system. And then the landscaping and finishing off of phase two would happen, phase two of phase one would happen next year if the road closure was supported. Within that email that I received last night, they've even adjusted their ask a little bit more, suggesting that they could probably get away with $100,000 support for them to be confident they could complete this phase, be able to open up some sites this fall, winter, and complete the project next summer. I think that's all I wanted to share about that. So I shared this as part of the slide just to, the administration's recommendation is for council to defer decision on this until the 2027 budget. Even with the additional information provided by the club over the last week, administration's recommendation is the same. And the reason it's the same is by no means do we think this is a bad project or not an important project for the town of Edson or the campground. It's about process. I worked very closely with the club over the last year, and they worked very hard. I shared dates, important council dates with them on when it would be best to bring these funding requests to council so council could consider them as part of our budget process. They worked very hard to meet those times. It didn't work out. They managed to not have the data they needed in order to bring those funding requests up until May 12th, so past our budget schedule for 2026. Administration's recommendation is purely just to keep it within a budget cycle rather than a mid-year request for council. And this slide just is speaking to that and the fact that council has lots of hard decisions to make when it comes to budgeting. It's probably one of the biggest decisions they make every year. And our capital plan has, over the next 5 years is in the average of $15 million a year of projects that are all very important to this municipality. And from a process perspective, administration recommends that these things are done during the budget process instead of mid-year. Again, I want to reiterate that the club worked very hard. We have lots of great volunteers working for the club that did a lot of great work to bring forward this proposal to the council, and they worked hard to try to meet the process timelines, but just were unable to do it for all kinds of various reasons. The recommendation for administration to council tonight is that the council direct administration include the Lions Club campground upgrade for consideration in the 2027 budget deliberations.
Thank you, GM Kitlitz, for your presentation. Councillor Positioning.
Yeah, through the mayor to GM Kitlitz. Is the Lions Club at risk at all losing any grants if they don't secure funding from us this year? Like I'd hate for us to push them off to a budget cycle and then miss out on provincial funding, and maybe not be able to get it in the future. So is there any grants or other funds that this would be tied to that would be important to know about?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so that's a really great question that I didn't ask, and it didn't come up in any of our dialogue with the club, so I don't have an answer for that one. I don't know if anyone that you don't know for sure. No. 2 grants, yeah. But yeah, so I don't have an answer for that one. I'm sorry at this point in time.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Fogarty.
Thank you. Through the mayor, just to council and to administration. The Lions Club has worked very hard, and I really appreciate all the good things that they do for our community. I am concerned about the changing numbers, and the numbers haven't changed a little, they've changed a lot. And even though they've changed in the positive direction in terms of what they got through, my concern becomes changing again. And we get caught up in phase one, and the numbers change, and it costs a lot more. And then phase one is done, and then what's the ask for phase two? I did ask this at our committee of the whole meeting. Is there a future ask coming? And so while, again, I echo the concern over potentially losing some of their funding, I am concerned that, because, I mean, my understanding is the estimate went from over 800,000 now to 555,000, I believe, which is a significant change. Are there things that are going to come up during the project that could change that number back the other direction again? And in kind of mid-budget year, that would be my concern, that we keep coming back to this. So I would be more apt to support waiting as part of the 2027 and do this as part of the 2027 budget deliberations and have, I guess, more concrete numbers. That's my greatest concern, is the lack of the changing numbers.
Go ahead, GM Kitlitz.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to supplement one thing I didn't mention. In that last email I got from the architect, you know, the $100,000 ask now does build in a bit of contingency based on his, again, changing numbers. Without it, they basically have no contingency whatsoever. So this would help them manage some of those, that flux could happen with any project that we see. But I just wanted to throw that in there as a mention. And also just to clarify the number, it's $555,000 plus the landscaping, which is estimated 65 to 70 for next year, and then some taxes. So we're probably closer to 630 or 620, somewhere in that range. But I'm going off the information they provided. So,
Thank you, Councillor Taylor.
Through the mayor to GM Kitlitz, two questions. First question: will deferring the project to, like deferring the full amount, the 170 or now I guess $100,000 ask to 2027, have any impact on the pricing the club has received through its tender process? For example, can we expect costs to increase if the project is delayed significantly, or are their tender prices typically held for a year?
through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Taylor. So I haven't confirmed whether the club has entered into contracts with their contractors. So they have a quoted tender amount that I believe the contractors would probably hold for a year. But typically, for example, for the town, we would enter into a contract with our contractors to secure some of that stuff. A great example would be B1, where they came back for phase 2 of B1 and they held the prices for the previous year as part of that negotiation and what we did with them there. So I can't speak for sure, but typically those prices should be held. But what typically happens at the end of the year, let's say that they're running late or they can't get it all done, that's when that negotiation would happen at the fall to say, hey, are you going to hold these prices? And if there's a contract, it's much easier to do that. But generally, you can negotiate and hold those prices for an extra year.
Second question, the RFD in front of us notes that the club has indicated that it has sufficient funding to begin the initial phases of the project. So if construction begins this year and is completed next year, what impact, if any, will that have on the club's operations? Specifically, would any campsites need to be taken out of service during construction? And would there be any effect on like revenue lost in that process?
Yeah. So again, through Mr. Mayor, so but based on my conversation, my understanding is the east half, phase 1 of the road there that's planned for construction, which we're calling phase 1 this year, will start right away this summer. So those lots will all be out of service. And they're hoping to have the bottom 6 serviced and ready to use by September. So they would be able to start generating some revenue. Like I said, they wanted to try to do some winter rentals for those lots. The top 2, 7 and 8, would have to wait till that road closure bylaw is fully taken care of. But they will have closures to do this construction. And so that will impact their operations, but I assume that they're fully aware of that. They have a construction project, but their plan hopefully would be to be back up in operations by September this year. So,
CO Beveridge?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So there was a question with regards to the ability, I believe CFEP is one of the grant opportunities that the Lions had. I've just reviewed the program guidelines for CFEP, and there is a possibility of requesting an extension. The grant recipient can do so. Essentially, it requires the requester to provide reasons why, et cetera, and some detailed information, but it's most definitely put within the guidelines to allow for extensions. Now, noting it's on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions before I make my comments? Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
Through the mayor to council, I'm supportive of administration's recommendation to defer this to the 2027 budget deliberations. I'm very supportive of enhancing our facilities. I think it's, this is just another facility that needs to be enhanced. We spent quite a bit of money and time at Wilmore Park enhancing that campground, and it's fair that we give the same thought and consideration to this project as well. We have a third-party user who takes care of this campground and does a great job with it. And I always hats off to the Lions Club. The money that they generate, this is not a private company. This goes back into our community. So the answer is not no on the project. It's just deferring to next year. I think Deputy Mayor Fogarty makes some excellent comments. We've seen some big swings on some numbers, and maybe just some more concrete numbers would be helpful. Feels like we are in the Lions Club maybe rushing through this process to try to get it under the gun for this year. So again, I'm fine with deferring it to next year, and we can have a fulsome discussion on that. If the Lions Club wants to proceed without the $100,000 and get some work done this summer, they're obviously welcome to do that, and then we'll make our decisions in the fall for next year for our piece of the funding.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Pisichny.
Through the mayor to Jim Kitlitz. First of all, I support the project. The timing on it's bad for as a municipality goes, so I'm definitely in support of us supporting the Lions Club in this endeavor. The question I have, and you mentioned it a couple times now, that they hope to be open and operating for winter. Now, if I recall, the lease agreement that they had, because the town of Edson owns the lands, do they not? And then they're under a lease, and if the lease does not say that campers are not allowed to extend past 2 weeks, is that still a clause in that lease agreement? And the reason I ask that is the goal is, and in the past, was never to have long-term renters in Lions Park, as it was a community campground. And it didn't want to look like a trailer park as you came over the overpass and have skirted trailers and all that kind of thing. So I'm not sure what type of winter campers we're trying to attract. So I'm just kind of curious on that, because if there's traveling campers who go by and they want to rent a space for a few nights, that's great. But I just don't want to come over that overpass and see half a dozen skirted trailers with 400-pound propane tanks in front of it, and it looking like people live there and are not camping there. So that's my only fear. And just because you mentioned this winter camping part, and it's just raised some red flags with myself.
Through Mr. Mayor, so great question. So this was the information that I got last evening, and where they mentioned that they would like to try to do that, test it with some winter sites. So I don't have any more details, and I did not check the lease agreement to confirm that. So that's, but I seem to recall the same thing. So we'll have to confirm that for sure and get some clarity from the club on what exactly that means. But I'm just going off of the latest information I got last night. So.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? So I have batted this around my brain a lot since the presentation, and I want to commend the Lions Club. They've been operating that campground for decades in our community. I've had friends that have stayed there. If you check YouTube, type in Lions Campground, there are people that do video blogs about exploring Edson and staying at the Lions Campground and all kinds of stuff. Really great community place. But when I look at the numbers in the original presentation, it would be a hard sell for me to support spending that much money of municipal dollars on the campground at this point in time, with so many deferred projects within our capital project. We have First Avenue, we have 7th Avenue, we have a laundry list of things that we chose not to do this year because the funding was not available and the capacity was not there, and we're going to have to make those decisions next year and the following year. I do believe this is an excellent project. I am much happier with the revised numbers and the revised request that has come forward to council. I do share some of the same concerns as Deputy Mayor Fogarty of the large reduction in what was estimated. So I certainly need to know, first of all, the company that is hired to do this, are they reputable? Do they have experience with this? That we have seen as a municipality, you go for the lowest bid and you end up with what you're paying for. Where you have companies that don't necessarily know what they're doing, and then what are we on the hook for? At the end of the day, we can't leave a project not complete. I am concerned that, the project starts this summer and there's an expectation the town's going to fund next year. And what if we don't have the money based on all the other things too? And I'm also concerned with, and it's, it's to the same point of losing grant funds, increasing costs of this project. We know as well as when we delay, costs will go up. So those are the challenges that have been rattling around in my brain, but still trying to see this project to happen for our community. So I think at this point in time, we need more information to know, to do our due diligence on the contractor, to firm up the numbers. And then, it makes it a little bit easier to make that decision as a part of the 2027 budget process. We do have council contingency funds that we can pull from if council deems this is an important project moving forward. I was prepared to agree to some funding tonight, but I think there's some questions that have been raised here, and we need to do some more due diligence with the Lions Club. Not to say, as everybody has said, this is a worthwhile project, but we also need to ensure that we see the big picture moving forward, so we don't get caught with much larger costs going down the road. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the mayor to council and everyone. I echo a lot of what Mayor Zahara said. And I also say, it was mentioned in the RFD how much money the Lions Club has raised, which is certainly commendable. That is an incredible amount of money through grants and fundraising. But it also said in the RFD, perhaps by deferring one more year, it allows them a little more time to access a little more. And that's not a bad thing too. And then to help to firm up those numbers so we can have perhaps a fulsome discussion in September, October when we have our budget discussions. So that's it.
So to GM Kitlitz, will you be able to, find out further information on who they're working with? Obviously, we don't need that publicly, but just to do some due diligence on that.
Yeah, sure, Mr. Mayor. Just to confirm, so we want to basically find out a little bit more about the contractors they've selected, whether they're going to be into contracts and secure some of the numbers. Also, a little bit of clarity maybe on, what they can do and where they can get to with these contractors before the end of the year if they do decide to proceed. Make sure we're clear on that, and then also some clarity on what their winter camping plans are. Are those sort of the three big ones, I think? And then, also maybe firming up some of these numbers a little bit more and explaining them.
Yeah, and I think too, just having a clear understanding too, like we don't want them to lose any grant funding here. So,
Yeah, right. Okay.
If there is that potential, then I think we need to have another discussion. But, that's, I think I would be more comfortable deferring this decision to either the 2027 budget or to a future council meeting. I do agree with administration. We have to stop these mid-year asks for projects. I know things happen and timelines don't always line up, but we need to be able to look at the full scale of our projects and then make the determination as to what moves forward and what does not. With that, council, I'll take a motion from the floor. Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
I move the council direct administration to include the Lions Club campground upgrades for consideration in the 2027 budget deliberations.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, GM Kitlitz. Next up, we have Ms. Carly Williams, the Legislative Officer, Public at Large Appointments to the Town of Edson Library Board.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this evening, we are looking to discuss a couple of recent vacancies on the library board. Due to those recent vacancies, we have uptake in some recruitment and interviews in the last month. To support continuity and ensure quorum of the board is maintained prior to the organizational meeting. As these applications do contain personal information and confidential evaluations, we would be looking to move into closed session to discuss.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Council, take a motion from the floor, please. Go ahead, Councillor Fogarty.
I move that the meeting move into closed session pursuant to Access to Information Act, Section 20, Disclosure Harmful to Personal Privacy, and Section 22, Confidential Evaluations, to discuss public member applications.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. All right, thank you for your patience, everyone. We are out of closed session, and we do have some motions arising at close that we'll get up here on the screen. All right, we have a motion on the screen. We will hand things over to Deputy Mayor Fogarty.
So just before I make the motion, I want to thank everyone who applied. It's a good time to do this now and then make the motion. I just want to thank everyone who applied for the to be a member of the library board. We had 7 applicants for 3 spots. And so it was nice to meet with people and really hear them talk about their passion for serving our community in this way. Difficult choices to make, but we do thank them. Our choices reflect, what we consider to be really good choices for now. I don't think there was a bad choice to be made, and it was very difficult. Of the 3 that we're appointing tonight, 2 are from Yellowhead County, 1 from the town of Edson. That'll give us a little bit more Yellowhead County representation on the board, library board as well, which I think is important. So I move that council appoint the following town of Edson library board members with terms commencing June 2nd, 2026 and expiring October 20th, 2027, Andy Hinchy and Amber Isaac Klump.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Fogarty. Council, any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. And you can continue on, Deputy Mayor Fogarty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council appoint the following town of Edson library board member with a term commencing June 2nd, 2026 and expiring October 31st, 2028, Christy Aubin.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, and thank you, Ms. Williams, for doing that process for us. Appreciate it. All right, we are going to move on to council committee reports as set out in your agenda. Before I take a motion, is there any questions from those reports or anything that councilors would like to highlight? Seeing none, I will take a question or a motion from the floor, please. Go ahead, Councilor Schramm.
I move that council accept the June 2nd, 2026 council committee reports as set out in attachments 1 to 6 for information.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor, that motion is carried unanimously. We have no information items, no notices of motion. Can I get a motion to go into closed meeting, please? Go ahead, Councillor Pasichny.
I move we go into closed session pursuant to sections 19, 20, 22, 29, 30, and 32 of the Access to Information Act.
Thank you. All those in favor, that motion is carried unanimously. We will return to open session at 9:57. Unfortunately, we are unable to conclude all the items that we have to deal with in closed session, so I will ask for a motion to extend the meeting past 10 p.m. Councillor Schramm will make that motion.
I move that council extend the meeting beyond 3 hours as set out in meeting procedure bylaw 2281.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? See, if you vote against it, I believe actually we can't continue. Yeah, all right. All those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. And we will go back into closed session or I need a motion to go back into closed session at 9:58. Councillor Schramm will make, or sorry, Councillor Holden will make that motion. Go ahead, Councillor Holden.
I motion that the meeting move into a closed session pursuant to sections 19, 20, 22, 29, 30, and 32 of the Access to Information Act.
Thank you. All those in favor? That motion's carried and we. All right, thank you, everyone. We had some important matters to discuss in closed session, and we do have a motion coming out of closed that we'll get up here on the screen. If somebody can make the motion, please. Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
I move the council conclude the CAO performance evaluation as discussed in closed session.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried, and I will adjourn this meeting at 10:40.